The file called .blueprint contains the last bold details, the files that are created and details about the models, and it's a YAML file as well. That's how the delete commands know what to delete. Let's remove the draft YAML file or change its name so it's no longer a familiar file, and let's do the new command. We will notice that the existing model have been written to the .blueprint file without us doing anything. Let's type the trace. It will do the same. Now, if we copy the contents of the .blueprint file and paste it into draft YAML file and run the blueprint build command, it will create the files successfully. Let's remove some spaces after the semicolon and see what happens. It will fail in building because of this single space. So we must have special care for spaces. It's very important in YAML. Model modifiers. As we have seen, the model section of the YAML file will contain the models as an object, containing all the models, each one as an object. Let's open the YAML file and change it from the inline notation of the object to the multiple line layout. And this build it using the batch that we have done. Now it's working. We have a problem because we added a space. So we missed the indentation level, which is considered a change in the meaning of the things that Blueprint expects. We fix that. And everything is working now. Here is the factory, the integration, the seeder, the model. It adds all the properties to the fillable array in the model. Blueprint allows us to use several modifiers. Let's pass on them and test. First, the enum. Let's add a martial status as enum and some suitable values for it. Single, married, divorced, following the enum keyword and separated with commas. Let's see how that's reflected in the migration. Let's add a decimal property, which is the bonus, which has two parameters, precision 8 and scale 2. Let's bold and see the result. Let's add the auto increment modifier and bold. And here's a failure. Why is that? When we add the auto increment for any property, it will make it as a primary key as well. So I will remove the auto increment from here. And now let's add the default with the value 1. And here is the reflection in the integration file. Let's make this property index as well and see the result. Let's test the Mailable as well. And it's there in the usual way we know. And now the unique and bold. We have a problem because of the unique, because the seeder is generating values that are not unique. So everything is fine. The model, the migration, the factory, but the seeder, it's not okay because it's not generating unique values. It should be nullable, and the order of it should not be repeated for any two given. We are going to talk now about the keys and indices. Let's open the ERD and let's add the department table. What department contain many employees, and the employee can only belong to one department. And let's add the ID and the name, and let's add the department ID in the employee as a foreign key of the ID of the department table. And let's draw the one-to-many relationship between the two tables. Let's create the department model in the YAML file. The ID does not need to be in here because it's a shorthand. It will be created automatically by Blueprint. We will pass through the shorthands supplied by Blueprint in the next lectures. And let's add the department ID in the definition of the employee model. And we will make it as ID and add the foreign modifier for it. Blueprint will infer that this is a foreign key to the ID of the department because that's what the name states. And let's bold and see the result. In the employee, it built the relationship which is belonged to automatically. But they didn't add the relation in the department. We can add the foreign key explicitly by adding a colon with the name of the table. Or we can put the name of the table with dot and the name of the column that is the reference of the foreign key, which is the ID in our case. And none of those will put the relation inside the department. It needs us to handle it manually. Creating the project model and linking it with the employee. One employee can work on many projects, and one project can have many employees working on it. Let's go to our ERD and create the project table with ID and name. In the ERD, we need to make the intermediate table, which should contain an ID from the employee and the ID from project to link one project with one employee. Let's place the intermediate table in the middle. We will add the relationship which have the same indentation as the properties of the table department. The department has many employees. Let's add the relationships of the project. We know that in the many-to-many relationships, we need to add belongs to many to both sides of the relationship. And Laravel Eloquent will make us the intermediate table, so it's something transparent for us when using Laravel. And let's run our batch. Let's see what we have in here. The relationships are added in the two migrations, and we're good to go. One-to-one relationship. Let's create a one-to-one relationship. It's the easiest one, but follows the same principles. We will go ahead and add a contact info table that will represent the contact information for one employee. And let's add the ID, phone address, and email. And let's link it with the employee table. Let's add the model in the YAML file with the same indentation of the other models. And let's add the relationship which is belongs to in the contact info and has one in the employee. Let's create seeders for projects and contact info models. Simply put seeders with alone and a list of all the models that you want to be seeded after them. We should add seeders with the same indentation as the models keyword, which doesn't have any spaces before it. Let's add some spaces on purpose before the seeders keyword and after the project model name. Let's see what can we get if we build the blueprint like this. We will get an error because it will consider the seeders as a model because it has the same indentation as the other models. Let's fix the indentation and build again. We will see that the space that we have added after the project model created us another problem, which is a syntax error in the generated file. So please notice that even Blueprint is a tool that will save us lots of coding, but little spaces will make major errors. Let's erase the changes that we have done last time. And let's add some configuration and control over our Blueprint process. Using this command vendor publish, which will copy the configuration file from the Blueprint vendor folder to the Laravel config folder. If you remember, when we first added the models, they were added in the app folder directly and not inside the models folder. This configuration file will solve this problem. Let's open the file and check it a little bit. The default namespace is app. Let's edit the model namespace and controller namespace. Note that I didn't add the app namespace to those. Blueprint prefers to be compatible with other Laravel versions because they are still running and lots of work are put on them. So new things that are added in Laravel 8, which are different from previous versions, should be taken into consideration. So for the new projects to be at relief, they must edit the default configuration. Basically, set the namespaces of models and controllers, and set the generation of fully qualified routes to true. This kind of routes was introduced into Laravel 8. They look like this. I like them more than the old way, actually. And the Laravel 8 doesn't support the old way of writing routes automatically. If you need to support them, you should go to the route service provider and add some code in there.